Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the fourth video of our Symfony 5 tutorial. In previous videos, we have covered Symfony 5 setup, Symfony 5 authentication, and failure and success handlers. And in today's video, we will learn about MVC structure, Symfony 5 directory structure, and we will create some pages in Symfony 5. So let's start with MVC. We will start from model. The model component is used to manage all the logics related to data. For example, object of a user responsible to get information of user from database to change it and update back it to the database. Next is view. As its name suggests, view is presentation of data collected from a model to the user. It is the UI part of a project that an end user can see. And controller. Controller accepts input and converts it to the commands for the model or view. Controllers are responsible to handle all the business logics and incoming requests of an application. Let's start with Symfony 5 directory structure. In Symfony 5 directory structure, we will describe these folders. I have already installed a Symfony project, and this is the folder structure of Symfony 5. We will start with .environment file. In this file, we can set up our database, and we can also set our environment like dev environment or production environment. We can also add many settings in this file like mailer URL and other functions. Next is bin folder. All the executable files will be in these folders. For example, if we will run a command php bin console make migrations, then this folder will be used there. After that, this is the config folder of our application. We can do configuration settings in this folder. We will start with services.yaml file. In services file, we can define parameters, register our services, and make them global. Suppose we have created a service. We can call that service inside a controller directly, but if we want to call that service in a view file, for example Twig file in Symfony, then first we need to define that file, that service file in services.yml file. Also we can define some parameters in this file. Next is route.yml file. We can add routes of our application in this file. For example, here is a commented dummy route. We will go to this path, then Symfony will redirect us to index function of default controller. So we can add all the routes of our application in this file. Next is migrations folder. Migrations are responsible to update or create database tables. For example, if we have created a user entity, then to create a table named user in database, first we need to make migrations for that table. Then there will be a migration file. Then after that, after running the migrations command, that table will be created in our database. Next is public folder. As its name suggests, public folder is publicly accessible. All our static images, CSS file and JS files will be in this folder. Also, there is already a file named index.php. This file will redirect us to our required location. After that, we have source folder. All the PHP code of our application will be in source folder, and there is controller folder inside this entity and repository folders. We can also create some other folders like forms, handlers, listeners, etc. Controller folder will contain all the controllers of our application, and we will add our business logic in the controller files. Entity. This folder will contain all the entities of our project. Repository. Repository will be created automatically when we will create entity, and we can add queries in the repository files. After that, we will go to templates folder. there is already a base file. The base file contains the header and the footer of our template, and we will extend this base file for the further pages. We will make some other Twig files and extend this base file. After that, there is a tests folder. We can write our test scripts in these folders. Next is translations. We can add multiple language translations file inside this folder. For example, translation.en, translation.nl. En stands for English, NL stands for Dutch, Netherlands. Next is vendor folder. All the third-party applications will be in this folder. Suppose we will install a package, then that package will be installed inside our vendor folder. So these were the main folders of Symfony 5. Now we will create some static and dynamic pages in Symfony 5. At our first page, we need to add some routes, controller functions, and Twig files. Let's start with controller. I'm already on my terminal and inside my Symfony project. Here I will run a command to generate a controller. Suppose we will add a client controller. So you can see that after running the above command, two files are created. One is controller file and second is a Twig file. Here is our client controller and index function inside our controller. But how user will reach to this function? The answer is user will reach from this route. These routes are called annotation routes. As mentioned in the route, we need to add client in our URL to reach to this function. But first of all, we need to set up our database. For that, we will add changes in .environment file. And our database is created successfully. Now we will start our server to run the project in the browser. And our project is running on this URL. We will add /client with our data. And here you can see that our controller function is worked successfully. If you are getting any error related to route not found, then you can install the Symfony annotation package first. We can also define our routes in routes.yaml file inside our config folder. For example, if we will remove this route from our controller, then our function will not be called. Now we need to add the route in our routes.yaml file. Let's go to config folder and routes.yml file. Copy and paste this commented route and add some modification into it. For example, if we are making a list of clients, then we will add the route like this. Our controller name. We will also change the name of our controller function to list. Now we need to add client slash list in our URL. And here you reach to your controller function. This was a static page, but now we will make a dynamic page. For that, we need to create an entity named client. Go to our terminal and create entity. You can see that two files are already created, client.php, this is our entity file, and client repository. This is our repository file. Now we need to add some basic fields, for example name or email, etc. String 5 null label false email. Next we will add status tiny small int, sorry. And our entity is created successfully. Our entity will be created inside our source folder. You can see that clients.php. Now we need to create a table named client by running our migrations. Currently our database is empty. Let's run our migration commands. And our client table is created with our required fields. Now we will add some dummy data inside this table. We can also use fixture for that, but for now we will manually add the data. Now we have 4 rows inside this table. 2 rows are enabled and 2 are disabled. Run a find query. Our entity name is client and we need to get all rows. We also need to add use here. This will include our client entity. Let's print the result of this query. If we will refresh this, I'm getting some error. Okay, we forgot to add semicolon after this. Now refresh again. Here is the result of our query. We will pass our client's object to the Twig. Now we will open our Twig file. It is in templates, client and index.html.twig. Templates, client and index. Now we will make a for loop here to print all the records. Now if we will refresh the page, we will see all the 4 entries. Again, there is some error. Okay, I have added wrong syntax. You can see that the name of all the 4 entries are visible here. We can also call email or status. Now we can also add conditions in our query. For example, if we want to get the rows where status is equal to 1, then we will use this way, by status true. This will only return the rows with status equal to 1. So we need to add multiple conditions. Then in that case, we will pass an array of conditions here. Status true, id is equal to 1. Then this will return only one row where id is 1 and status is true. You can see that if we will add id is 2 and status is true, then it will return the second row. But if the condition did not match, then this will return null. id 3 and status true. You can see that no results are found because there is no entry with status true and id 3 here. We can also write some custom queries in our repository file. For example, remove this array and add a custom name here. Find clients, or you can add find active clients. Now we need to copy this and go to our repository file. Here inside this folder, inside repository folder, the file client.repository. There is already built some dummy queries. We will copy one. For example, if we want to pass our status from here, like true, and inside repository we will call it status. Here we have added a line set parameter. We can also remove this line and simply paste our status variable here, but this is not suggested. Now you can see that this query returns our active rows. We can also get the result in form of array. Now the results are in form of array, and before the results were in form of objects. If we will pass false, then only the rows with status false will be printed. We will add anchor tag. Path, our route name, client, view, comma, ID. This is giving error because we did not have client view route yet. We need to create that route in our route.yaml file. In this case, we need to pass a dynamic variable inside our route. Suppose ID in our case. And here we will add view. In this case, the ID parameter is a required parameter. If we want to make it optional, then we can paste it to the end, or we can also paste here. Let's paste it at the end. If we will add a question mark here, then this parameter will become optional, but now this is a mandatory parameter. Now we also need to create a controller function for our route. We will go to our controller and create. We will just copy paste this function and change it. We can get that ID parameter here. In our query, we will pass ID and just add find here. Client. We will make a new Twig named view. Now we will go to our templates folder. Inside client, we will just copy and paste this. Now we have created a same file named view.html.twig. Here we need to add some changes. We will change the title to client details. No need to run for loop because we will have a single record in this case. Now if we will click on this page, then we will redirect it to our view screen. Here you can see the details of our client 3. If we go back and click client 4, then you will able to see the details of our client 4. In our templates folder, there is a base file. As I have already described, this file will have our header part and footer part, and we will extend this file. Let's suppose if we want to add a header file, add a header on all the pages, then we will add that header here. You can design the header or footer according to your requirements. Now this header will be visible on the top and footer will be visible below to the body. Here our header and footer. If we will go back, then refresh, the header footer will also be there. So that was the basic idea to create some pages inside Symfony 5. I hope you will like the video, and if you really liked the video and found it helpful, then please subscribe to my channel and share the video. Also please press the bell icon to get the notifications of my latest videos.